I want to talk a little bit about the stigma or some of the viewpoints on reselling out there in the world, I guess. And then we're going to talk about the details around the 7 items that sold on eBay yesterday. It was Thursday yesterday, sold 7 items, and it was quite a variety, so it was pretty interesting. We'll get into all the details there. But before we do, if it's your first time here, my name is Brian, and I'm a reseller. I pick things up at garage sales, estate sales, Facebook Marketplace, and thrift stores, and I flip them for eBay, on eBay, for a profit most of the time. I'm an everything seller, so you'll get to see what that looks like here in just a few minutes, but we'll get right into it. So I got a comment last night that said I did a short video yesterday about a Charvet shirt I found at Goodwill, which has a decent amount of value. And the comment was, scalping Goodwill clothes, ? Am I missing something? ? And I was like, I've heard, people say, oh, you're a scammer, but scalper is so funny because I think of people like standing outside of a stadium with sports tickets or something, scalping tickets. And I guess it's the same concept, right? You're going in, you're buying something, you're taking it out of circulation, you're buying it for a price, you're selling it for another price, a higher price to make money. So I guess you could look at it as scalping, but it was interesting because I did reply to the comment to talk about how much inventory I buy from my local Goodwills. And it was interesting. I was actually at Goodwill yesterday or Wednesday, and the lady that was ringing me up, she said, how's it going? And I said, good. I said, I was over at one of the other Goodwills, the newer one, and they're putting in a whole bunch of new shelving. I said, it looks like they're trying to kind of remodel the store to look like this one. She goes, yeah, she said, I think we've maximized it now. We've got 34,000 pieces of clothing on the floor. She's not talking about items. There's coffee mugs, books, CDs, hard goods. There's another probably few thousand items just in that back section of the store that's not clothing. But in clothing, they have 34,000 pieces of clothing on the floor. That's one location. So I was doing some math. There's about a dozen Goodwill locations in the Oklahoma City area. There's also a couple of Salvation Armies, and there's a handful of independent thrift stores. I didn't count those. I'm just counting Goodwills because I talk about them the most. There's 3 that are about the same size as that one. So I said, okay, if there's those, and then you've got 9 others that are a little bit smaller. They're not tiny. They probably have 20,000 pieces of clothing on the floor, those others, based on the relative size. That's about 300,000 pieces of clothing just at the Goodwill locations sitting on the floor at any given point, which just blew my mind. And I'm not counting the bins. I'm not counting the outlet. So that's not even in there, which has a lot of clothing in there in the back there and, moving through the bins as well. And I was like, okay, how many resellers are there in Oklahoma City? I really have no idea. I run into them at thrift stores and garage sales and stuff all the time. And some I know personally, some I don't. And I just said, okay, let's say there's 200 resellers. I don't know if that's a good number for the Oklahoma City area or not. But I just said, let's just say there's 200. And everybody's buying 100 pieces of clothing a week, which they're not. You don't have all resellers buying 100 pieces of clothing a week. Some resellers I know aren't in the clothing business. They may dabble in it. They hate it. It's just, there's all sorts of emotions around reselling clothing. But I just said, okay, everybody buys 100 pieces a week. So you've got 20,000 pieces of clothing being bought per week, which is less than the amount of clothing in just one Goodwill location. I did the percentage, and it was like 6.5%. So if everybody bought 100 pieces of clothing a week, there's still 94% of the clothing is still there available at Goodwill. Just because generally resellers are so picky about what they're buying. They're buying things that have good value, resale value on the secondhand market. And so when people go, oh my gosh, now nobody can get the clothes they need, and I'm like, that is not the case at all. There is 94% of 300,000 pieces of clothing. So 300,000 minus 20,000. There's still 280,000 pieces of clothing in Oklahoma City for people to go out and buy brand names. Polo Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein. I mean, the list goes on. Levi's, Wranglers. The list goes on of stuff you can buy at Goodwill for substantially less than retail. For people who are buying for personal use, the prices aren't horrible because, you know, you can pay $6 for a really nice shirt. You can pay $10 for a really nice pair of jeans or pair of slacks, or $12 for an entire suit. I mean, even though it's tough for me sometimes as a reseller, I just stay away from the items I can't sell. But it's interesting the way people look at it. And I mean, I would defend resellers to anybody. I think most people just don't understand. I think people think maybe they go to a thrift store and they walk in and they look around and they probably think there's 1,000 pieces of clothing, not 20,000. And then they think all the resellers, they think there's hundreds, swarms of people in that one store buying it all out, which is just not the case. Everybody has different niches. Everybody lives in different areas. Everybody has different paths they're going around, routes to go to different stores. So if you're watching this and you're a reseller, I'd love to get your opinion on that whole topic. Do you shop for clothes? And if you do you go to every thrift store in your area, or you go to certain ones? Like, what do you do? And if you're not a reseller, what do you think about people who resell clothing, who go to thrift stores, buy it, essentially scalp the clothing? They're buying it for $5, and there's, I'm going to talk about this one. This is the first one. Buy this for $14.76 and sell it for $70. What do you think about that? I love it because I get to, help pay the bills and put food on the table, and it's so I really like it. But yeah, okay, enough of that. Let's get into the 7 items that sold this yesterday. So the first one that sold was these retro rifle shirts. I bought these at Goodwill, my local Goodwill, kind of on accident. I wasn't shopping for shirts. I didn't go through the shirts. I skimmed the jeans and I was walking to the front, and this one caught my eye. Just out of the corner of my eye, I was on the very end of a rack, second tier, and I was like, oh, it's a cool pattern. And I walked over and I saw the brand Retro Rifle, and I saw it's got some little rifles on it, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I comped it, and I was like, oh, it's worth buying. So I picked it up, and when I took it off the rack, that one was right behind it. And I could sell them separately, and I could maybe make $5 to maybe $10 more, maybe. But I was like, I don't want to do that. They're the same size. Somebody's going to like both of them. I put them as a pair, and I sold them that way. So $14.76 into $69.89 plus shipping. Those sold in about 2.5 weeks. The next item that sold, I don't know if it's these I've sold before. There were some other ones, but these are Tsukihoshi children's shoes. It's a real specialty brand. We bought them from a specialty shoe store. Originally, they were $50 way back. We bought them when the store was going out of business for like $25. And yeah, the kids never wore them. So we bought a bunch of shoes, and there were some they just never wore. And so I sold these once, and I got the size wrong, I believe, whenever I sold them in the description. And so they ended up getting returned. It's my fault, but I sold them again. So I sold them for $18 plus shipping on those. Glad to have those gone. Next item that sold, I showed this off a few weeks ago in a thrift haul video, I think, or a garage sale haul video. This is Schaefer's, made in USA, Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Really long duster. Really cool piece. It's a riding duster. If you're a cowboy out on the trail. I picked it up at a garage sale for $10, and I think I had it listed for $65 or $70. Somebody sent me an offer for $45, and it's a little bit of a unique item. There's a handful of them for sale, and they don't sell very fast. But so I was like, you know what, $45, I'm going to 4.5x my money, I'll take it. So I went ahead and sold it. I'm going to get that shipped out today. Glad to see that go. This next item, I'm pretty sure I sold it to another reseller, because I've done this a handful of times where I get the sale, and then I get the immediate message from the buyer that says, please do not include an invoice in the package, and ship promptly, please. Let me know of any issues. Thank you so much. They're very polite. And then the address, it has the person's first name, and it's, I don't know, it's like Rachel. I don't know what the first name was. Rachel, parentheses, no invoice. So I'm 99% sure this is being drop shipped for another reseller. The interesting thing is I sold it for the going rate, and I'm like, I really want to reach out to this person, the person I sold the ink cartridges to yesterday, and just be like, how are you selling these? I mean, obviously they're selling them on eBay. Maybe they're not selling them on eBay. Maybe they're selling them on some other platform, and I'm just shipping them from eBay. I really don't know where they're selling the items, but they both were reselling the items, and I'm like, how much money are they making by the time they're paying the shipping and the taxes and then selling it to somebody else? I just don't quite understand it, but I really don't care, because I sold it. And the item is this Scoop Fit lateral trainer. This is a bulky one. This one's going to be, I don't know how bad this is going to be to pack. I don't think it'll be horrible, but I bought it at Goodwill. It was on half off. So I paid $9.89 for it and sold it for $49.89 plus shipping. So that one's going to go FedEx home delivery, because it's going to be kind of a bulky box. I did see where some people had sold them and even pictured them with the legs taken off. And because I didn't do that, I wasn't sure like if I should take the legs off, because it takes a decent sized Allen wrench to put them back on. And I'm betting your average person doesn't have that tool, and I don't have one to give away. So I'm probably going to pack it just the way it is. Just kind of a bulky box, and put some packing paper or foam around it to keep it secure. It's super sturdy, so I don't think anything's going to happen to it. But yeah, sold that one in like 3 days, maybe 2 days. Sold it pretty fast. All right, next is a lot of blank tapes. And I say blank, they were blank. They've been recorded over. This is the second lot of these. I sold another lot last week. These have TDK and Maxwell tapes. There's 40 of them in this box. I picked the box because it holds I picked the number 40 because this box holds 40 tapes, and it is a very sturdy box. And I'm literally just going to put a little bit of bubble wrap in there around, stuff it in the cavities, get it nice and tight, and tape it up and ship it. So not an extreme amount of packaging on that, unless USPS is literally throwing the boxes. It's going to be just fine. So that one I've got $1 into that box of 40 tapes, and I sold it for $19.89 plus shipping. This next item's second VCR sold in 2 weeks. This is a Panasonic Blue Line. This is I believe it's the 8450. Yep. Nice, good shape. I paid $8.38 because I've got this cable included, which I paid $1 for somewhere. It was a different thrift store on a road trip. Picked that up for $1. So I've got $8.38 into that, and I sold it for $45.90 plus shipping. Whenever I went to test my VCRs, I actually had 4 Panasonic Blue Lines, and the 3 that were made in Japan all worked perfectly. The last one that was from like 2001, 2002, somewhere in there, was smaller, lighter weight, made in Taiwan, I think. Wasn't made in Japan. And it had like a little one of those like black and white fuzzy lines across the top. It had kind of a humming noise, and the picture would cut out randomly. I was like, that's so funny how you can tell the evolution of the manufacturing, trying to cut costs and keep their costs down, and is just a crappier product. It didn't hold up the same way as these ones that were from like the mid 90s. that one was made 6-7 years, later, and it's not holding up. So I've got 2 more of these, and then I've got the one that's I listed it as for parts, but I did put a picture of it with the picture, like it played a tape, and just explained that it has issues. But yeah. And then the 7th item that sold, I don't know how long I've had this, probably 9 months, 10 months, is this Vivitar Zoom flash with the manual. I got it in a camera lot. I say a lot. It had a camera, a lens, this flash, a bunch of different things, and it made sense to sell it separately, the parts. At the time, I thought it did. So I picked that up for $2, the cost I assigned to it, and I sold it for $14.88 free shipping. So that's not going to be a great one. I'll probably make, I don't know, $3 or $4 on it. And yeah, I'll have that out of the store. More money to reinvest. That's all 7 items that sold. I'm just probably a few hours away from putting my store on time away mode. I'm going to be gone for, it's Friday now, going to be leaving tomorrow morning, Saturday, about probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And we're headed up to Des Moines, Iowa to watch my oldest son in the national speech and debate competition that goes on. It is crazy. He was telling me that as far as a sport, which speech and debate is in the sports arena, it has the most participants in any national event. And I was like, really? And then I started thinking about it. So nationals are people from all 50 states, and they actually bring in people from a few different countries. And they're from all sorts of different schools within the state. So it's not just like top 2, top 3 in the state. There's hundreds of people per state. So I think there's something like 8,000 kids that participate in the competition. You start thinking about, once you get to the finals or the whatever it is in any sport, you're down to a couple of teams plus the people that travel with them. And it's not, family members, it's not participating in the event. You don't have 8,000 people in any other sport participating in an event, which I thought was pretty interesting that it was that it shook out that way. But in any case, whenever I do that, I put my store in time away mode. I do allow sales. I put a note on my store saying I'm away for this long. I'll ship on Monday, the blah, 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 whatever the date is, whenever I'm back. And just let people know. This is going to be the first time I am going to let people know that when I get an order, I'm going to message them right away with just a pre-done message that says, hey, just letting you know, you probably saw the note, but I'm just letting you know that I am on vacation for the week, and I'm going to be shipping orders on Monday, the June 23rd. Monday, June 23rd. And, have a great day. And I expect that there's probably going to be 1 or 2 people who may cancel their order because they didn't pay attention to any of that. And they thought, oh, I'm ordering it today. I'll have it within a few days. So even though eBay, when I put it on time away mode, it shows them the date range that they're going to get it, which allows for the time away. People don't pay attention to that. Not everybody does. But yeah. Anyhow, that's it for this week. I really appreciate you sticking around. If you have any comments or questions, please leave those down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure and get back to you right away. And until next time, have a great day.